So innovation has become an important consideration in very many organizations. I remember when I first started my career, one of the toughest conversations I would have was with leaders and just trying to convince them that they need to engage with innovation at all. They'd be asking me questions about why they need to do it. And so some of the first few hours of my engagements with a lot of companies were just around convincing them that they actually need to engage with building their innovation capabilities. But these days, if you look at the surveys that are coming out, you'll see anything from like 75% to over 80% of leaders are actually saying innovation is becoming an important consideration for them, or at least they're ranking innovation amongst the top three priorities that they want to use to drive growth in their organizations. And so if it's a top three priority for driving growth, the question then becomes, do these organizations even have the right culture for ensuring that they're able to actually accomplish this ambition that they have? Because what we're noticing is that there's a big, quite a big ambition capability gap between what leaders say they want to accomplish and the capabilities that they have within their organizations. And culture is really important, right, for driving behavior. I know that organizations tend to focus a lot on the outcomes they want to produce and maybe even the behaviors that they see in their organization. But actually what really matters is whether or not they're able to enable the right behaviors from a cultural perspective. And so at Strategizer, we believe that an innovation culture is driven by three important factors. Factor number one is leadership support. Factor number two is organizational design. Factor number three is innovation practice. And across those three factors, a company can ask itself three questions which are important for considering whether or not they have the right innovation culture. And the first question is around leadership support. And the question is, how much time do our leaders actually spend on innovation? Because the amount of time that our leaders spend on innovation is a signal to the rest of the organization in terms of what's important in that organization. Wherever leaders' energy is, the CEO and the C-level execs, wherever they're putting their energy is where people tend to gather because they understand that those are important priorities for their organization. And so if leaders simply say they want to drive innovation, but then they don't spend time paying attention to it, or even have it as an agenda item on the board meetings, then that's a signal that goes out to the company that this is not really an important priority. And so it's important for us to really consider how much time our leaders spend on innovation. Do they spend less than 10% of the time, which is quite the common finding is, a lot of leaders spend less than 10% of their time on innovation, whereas we believe that they should be spending at least 30 to 40% of their time on innovation to really signal it as one of the top three priorities for driving growth within their organization. So that's the first question. The second question is, where does innovation actually sit in your organization? Do you have a head of innovation who sits at the vice president level, reports to a senior vice president, who reports to the chief technology or the chief strategy or the chief marketing officer, who then reports to the CEO? So that's three levels down. If innovation sits that low in the organization, it doesn't have the legitimacy and power that it actually needs to drive real change in your company. And so we can claim that we want to drive innovation as a top three priority, but if the individual who's responsible for driving that top three priority is not sitting high enough in the organization, then how are they going to drive that top three priority? So it's important for us that we move innovation up the ranks so that it's not really sitting way down in the organization to have any proper influence on strategy or the allocation of resources. And then the final question we want to ask ourselves is, what is your company's innovation kill rate? Like, how many ideas do you actually stop and kill and celebrate the failure of those ideas? Because a really important part of innovation practice is the ability to try out new things. So if you're finding that you're not really killing a lot of ideas, you're in one of two situations. You're either working on ideas that don't need to be killed because they're very similar to your core business, and so they're just driving the same kind of products and services that you've always had. Or you've got a lot of zombie innovation projects, which is projects that are not really creating any value, but nobody wants to admit that these projects are not creating any value. And so these things just keep going. Often in that case, it's the CEO's pet project that just keeps going because nobody wants to admit that this project is actually failing. And so a company's innovation fail rate, the number of ideas we kill, is a really good indicator of the quality of innovation practice that we have within our organization. Those are the three questions that you need answers to just to check if you've got the right innovation culture in your organization. Do you have great leadership support around the amount of time that leaders spend around innovation? Do you have the right organizational design that gives innovation legitimacy and power? And do you have the right innovation practice that allows you to have a good innovation kill rate, which also allows you to be able to drive and accept failure within your organization? Because again, accepting failure is a good way of then finding really cool breakthrough innovations that can become successful.